forget about channels for a second. Forget about tactics. Focus on your audience. We love this concept of double ICP. So obviously everybody knows ideal customer profile, but then there's another layer of it, which is
Hey everyone, welcome to Marketing Movers. Today we have Joanna, the Managing Director of Growth at Marketbridge. Marketbridge is part management consultancy, part marketing agency with over 250 employees and a client roster that includes major Fortune 50 brands. Joanna has really deep insight into what it takes to build a high-performance agency and drive results with modern go-to-market motions. We're super excited to have you on the show, Joanna. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Where I'd love to start our conversation off today is actually how you think about the modern go-to-market approach. One of the things you mentioned in our conversation the other week was how in order to be successful today with your go-to-market strategy, you can't exist in a vacuum. You've got to be able to understand the full picture. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think we truly believe at Marketbridge in this concept of connectivity. It's really, I think that early in my career, I've always worked with an amazing array of experts from digital and web and go-to-market, demand, creative branding. And I think especially in the last couple of years, I think this concept of no signal loss is critical. And obviously it's from the buyer's journey's perspective, but also it's the way the agencies, the marketing companies can work, where there's truly a no signal loss between go-to-market strategy all the way to the execution, analytics, and data. So as we were building teams at Marketbridge, again, our solutions are pretty complex and pretty individual. The collection of them, that connectivity is really the magic sauce. And that's something we believe in as a kind of top performing place to be and work for.
Got it. So it sounds like one of the key differentiators is how you guys are connected and integrated from the strategy all the way to the execution of the marketing strategies. How do you think about creating those teams and creating the right communication flows to make sure that the idea that you come up with ends up coming to fruition and being an effective strategy?
Yeah, so over the years, we put a lot of emphasis in cross-training our teams. So again, I think that's a kind of a nature of marketing and advertising is that you always kind of specialize in something, right? But really making sure that there's a common understanding of how branding can influence demand generation and account-based marketing, how data can influence creative execution and personalization at the creative level. Like that's really what's important, right? Everything is very codependent these days from experience perspective, and I think that's what is important in really delivering the biggest value to our clients is that every single team member really have, obviously they still have a really core discipline and expertise they really work in, but on top of it, they really have a good understanding of different factors out there that will influence what they do for our clients and how it really impacts the strategy overall.
And how do you guys facilitate that, like on a tactical level with your employees, making sure that they are able to balance the cross training with their day-to-day expectations in their specific role?
I think it's in practice, it's really this concept of like one-to-one to one-to-many. So we start with one-to-one mentorship. So we like to pair up our team members with mentors, with a little bit more seasoned marketing and advertising professionals. And we have ongoing meetings every couple of weeks where we really talk about anything that is going to influence their job and the way they kind of approach marketing. And specifically put a lot of emphasis in kind of educating them at that given time about other things that will be a factor in their strategy. If it's digital, creative, branding, however we define it. And then we try to kind of scale it to one-to-many. That's where we do it at scale. We do a lot of knowledge sharing. We do a lot of show and tell. We encourage questions during the creative presentations. How did you do this influencer marketing strategy, right? Like really making sure that we give people a room to really consume this additional information, all of this training in a fun, engaging way. So again, it's part of our culture. It's something that we believe in. It's never perfect. Because new things come up, new vendors come up, new strategies show up. There's always something happening in marketing. It's a ever moving target, but kind of that constant drive to self training and cross education is something that we truly believe in.
So for the self-training and the self-education, it sounds like it's more so driven by the individual who is being mentored as opposed to this role has a specific track and you have to learn about these domains. Instead, it's very individual what they're interested in. Is that right?
It's important that, I always say it's in the end, this is your career, right? So I can help you, but it has to, that kind of curiosity has to come from you. So during our mentorship sessions, we try to understand where their interests lie outside of what their core job is. We definitely focus on that. But again, that connectivity is really happening when you go outside of your interest. You really try to understand all of the different aspects of marketing. Again, you don't have to be an expert, but just having a general understanding of how all of this connects. It's something that's it's very important for us.
It's interesting. I want to go back to the perspective you have on this go-to-market approach. So I think it's interesting. I talked to a lot of agency owners, and it seems like there's two sides here of the view where on one side of the house, the belief is that all marketing channels are getting more competitive, and the solution to that is to become more specialized, focus just on organic social, focus just on cold email, or focus on your specific domain expertise. Whereas with you guys, and another pattern that I'm seeing is that instead you need to be interconnected and you need to have a more dynamic strategy. If I'm a brand and my current go-to-market motion isn't working, how would you coach me through the process of like identifying why it's not working and what I should do about it?
Again, you come back. When you are a go-to-market marketer, okay, so you're not an agency owner, but you're truly a go-to-market specialist building a plan for your company. Forget about channels for a second. Forget about tactics. Focus on your audience. Everything should start with the audience planning and audience segmentation, because technology allows us to really follow your audience where they are. So you don't have to really say, oh, okay, I have to focus on social, or I have to focus on digital. We can build an omni-channel presence for those specific individuals, for those specific companies, or those specific segments. So I think that that's kind of the starting point. If your strategy is not working, just come back to your audience and really understand who you're targeting. But coming back to your previous point about, kind of the two groups of thought when it comes to high performing agencies, specialized versus not. As a former business owner, I think specialization is very smart. It's a really great business model for the agencies. I think there's a lot of clients that do need to fulfill specific gaps in their teams. And I think in those situations, those specialized agencies are fabulous. But I think as you're going up market, being a little bit more of that integrated, no signal loss kind of response for clients, providing that integrated, connected value is something we see a lot of. So that has been the path that we chose to go with.
So it sounds like a big determining factor is the types of customers that you work with, and maybe also the like life cycle of your agency, where you're at in your journey of like building your business.
Correct. I don't think there is a wrong or right path. It's more about kind of what you as an owner or kind of a agency entrepreneur, what you are truly passionate about. I've seen both business models work very, very well, and there is a market for all of us. So I don't think you have to worry too much about kind of how you're growing, but kind of self-awareness and understanding who you are as an agency is critical, because I think that will go a long way.
So, with that in mind, where I'd like to go next then is, where do you feel like the future of the industry is going? What are trends that you're observing? Um, what do you think is going to end up shaping the future of the space?
I know you would like to hear that for me to say that AI is going to change the future. Yeah, it is an impact, but AI is good as the humans who are asking the right questions. So I think that AI is a tool. It's not. I think for me, I think AI is a kind of a really transformative way of us, the way we do things. It's not necessarily changing the way we build strategies and go to market plans for our clients. So there's a difference. I think the agency has the model has changed due to the AI. It's the processes, workflow, speed. All of this is going to change with AI. But I think that the actual output for our clients, I don't see AI being the biggest game changer. I think that it's really more of the power of the brand. And again, it's B2C and B2B. I see a lot of almost like convergence of B2C and B2B in the way we do things. So our agency is primarily B2B. We do work with a lot of high-tech companies, manufacturing, industrial, healthcare. And you'll be surprised how many of those B2C channels and tactics and techniques we are using in influencing very B2B audiences. So I think that really the rise of connected TV, connected radio, being able to really use the power of mass media, but then personalize it for those specific audiences in a B2B setting, that's really a game changer. Right now, it's happening very at that go-to-market level. I soon think it's going to have also impact on the actual creative and branding and articulation of the brands. I think that there's a lot of B2B brands that are already doing it. Salesforce being one of them. They have a very strong brand, and with their events like Dreamforce, they do a great job in humanizing the brand. But I think that you will see more and more of the traditionally B2B companies using influencers, putting a human face to their brand, developing content that's a little bit more kind of human centric, not just product centric. You will see more of the kind of websites that are more intuitive and more kind of PLG driven, where it's more of kind of the user can really self-absorb the information, not just kind of get another demo request. So I think that that influence of B2B experiences will be coming to kind of to B2B, and vice versa. I think on the B2C side, we'll see more of unexpected way of attracting customers from a channel perspective. So not just kind of that cover blanket with the Super Bowl commercials, but I think a lot of brands are becoming smarter how to kind of really go deep into their personas and how to target them in a little bit more personalized way.
What are some examples of that?
So, you can see already we all being targeted on streaming TV like Hulu. The next time you see the commercials that will show up during the pause, just ask yourself, why are they showing you dog commercials if you have a dog, and you're not seeing any baby commercials because you don't have kids? So just all of these kind of ways of personalizing, advertising at the mass level. I think that the brands are doing more and more to really make sense of it and creating very cohesive buyer's journeys. Obviously Google and the decision of not shutting down cookies for a while has been a very welcome kind of decision by the advertising industry. So again, there's just a lot of kind of that connectivity that's happening between B2C and B2B.
Do you feel like there's going to be a shift or pushback from like a privacy perspective? Like, what is the line there in creating this personalized buyer's journey?
I think that it's a conversation we've had for years. It's been years and years of kind of asking this question. I think what was happening with Google was probably the closest to actually having kind of progressing it forward. The fact that it's not happening is making me suspect that the status quo is going to be here for a while. In the United States, obviously Europe is way ahead of us, as well as Canada and California. But I think that at scale, I think that in the United States we'll continue see kind of a slow progression of the privacy laws. But I might be wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what I thought was interesting that you said was that you don't think that AI or all this new technology is going to be the biggest game changer. It's more so how you think and how you approach strategy behind your different sales and marketing motions. If I'm like an agency or I'm a brand and I'm trying to think through my strategy, do you guys have a framework in general that you apply to thinking through the creation of the strategy at the very early stages?
Yes. Again, we believe this concept of audience first, audience planning, not media planning, not channels planning, not even brand planning. You start with audience planning first. So we love this concept of double ICP. So obviously everybody knows ideal customer profile, where we focus on specific personas, job titles, roles, demographics. But then there's another layer of it, which is ideal company profile. Not every company is going to be good for account-based marketing. We know that. But really having an understanding of the ideal company profile, specific segments, groups of companies, what are the different characteristics from geo perspective, from vertical perspective, technographic perspective, really understanding that ICP at the ideal company profile level is something that is typically making these strategies so much stronger. And again, this is that audience planning approach is something that is relevant regardless if this is rebranding, post M&A conversation, demand generation, account-based marketing, social media, influencer, whatever is your final output. If you start with that audience planning kind of segmentation first, we found this to be a really good catalyst for all of the strategies moving forward.
And what if I have multiple segments? How should I decide what's the heuristic in terms of like picking where to focus?
So that is directly depending on your budget. You don't need to pick one, right? You can have multiple segments, and then based on your budget and your technology, we can figure out how to help you prioritize it. You can prioritize it based on the intent. You can prioritize it based on the historical sales data. You can prioritize it based on your best kind of knowledge of the industry. But you typically want to have enough of that addressable market to create visible impact. So that's something that typically a good agency will work with you on. And it's also the resources, right? You can only process so much work. You can only process so much strategies, so much output. You have only so much media budget to influence your kind of TAM. So these are the conversations that we have with our clients, helping them prioritize. And again, it's a rolling activity, right? Because as you're moving through the pipeline, you can start adding more companies, more targets, more prospects into your ongoing kind of activity. We just have to start somewhere.
Right. And do you guys run similar demand generation ABM motions for yourself, or how is it different in terms of how you get clients for you and what you do for your customers?
So it is also very much evolving as we're becoming a bigger company. I think we're putting more standardized and more of the traditional demand generation kind of processes in place. But I think that over the years, the way we built our business was really through focusing on the brand, focusing on kind of the community, peer-to-peer community, and obviously networking and connections. That's kind of like baseline of any business. But just really focusing on the brand and just making sure that we can be found. Again, peer-to-peer websites, listings, things like that have been very successful to us. But I think that overall, kind of the thought leadership awards, things like that it's a very good way to build an agency brand.
And that's what you mean, because I feel like a lot of people, when they think about the concept of like focusing on their brand, it's almost hard to conceptualize and put that into actions that I can take. Focusing on the brand to you, it's thought leadership. And what else would you say to maybe an earlier Joanna? You're giving her advice. How would you tell her to go about focusing on her brand and growing?
Well, I think that the brand starts with your messaging and your kind of identity. In the agency world, that matters. You want to have the brand that truly speaks. You know, if you are a digital agency, you want a branding that is digitally native. If you are a creative agency, obviously you want to have brand that automatically screams creative. So just starting with the actual identity of the brand, that is really critical in our industry. And then focusing on building digital ecosystem where your name is out there. So that would be, again, those peer-to-peer listing websites, have a good SEO, some paid search presence, awards, press releases that are optimized for kind of driving links back to your website. And just being in the industry and kind of being visible in the industry is something that we've done over the years. What we are really focusing a lot on now is more of the traditional demand generation. So actually having more of the kind of thought leadership assets out there that we can share our kind of philosophy with other prospects, targets, even competition, right? But just really drive the thought leadership out there.
That makes sense.
So, yeah.
Well, this has been a super fun conversation. I enjoyed it. I appreciate you hopping on. For someone who wants to continue the conversation with you, maybe learn more about Marketbridge, where should they go?
Absolutely. Please find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/Joanna Bittle. And then obviously come to our website, marketbridge.com. There's a lot of great content, insights, as well as success stories with our clients. And yeah, we would love to continue this conversation.
Awesome.